Doing an oil change in a 2016 Honda Rancher 420. Things you're going to need: 3 quarts of oil. Make sure that it's wet clutch safe. Look in your owner's manual. Make sure you're using the approved oil. A filter, a 10 millimeter socket, 17 millimeter socket, and an extension and a ratchet. Underneath the machine, just about in line with your foot peg, there's a hole right there in the skid plate. 17 millimeter plug. Crack that loose, and then I start to take it out by hand. As soon as I get it nice and loose, put my drain pan underneath, pull it all the way out. While the engine's oil is draining, pop off the seat, side panels, pull up, out, up, go around, out, weasel it around your four-wheel drive lever, and set those aside. Now I like to put some rags down below this. This is your filter housing. I lied earlier in the video and I said it was 10 millimeter, but they're 8 millimeter bolts here. So this is really critical how this is done. Crack each one loose. They all should come out no problem. You have to pay attention to how these come out. The filter comes out. There's a spring behind there. If you install the filter the wrong way, you'll destroy your engine. All these bolts are the same length, so it doesn't matter which one goes where. Grab a hold of it. Just kind of rock it back and forth. And there you have it. In there, you can see there's a spring. This gasket here on the filter goes toward the housing. This indent on the filter always goes in the spring in the block. So I got my drain pan below here. I'm just going to throw my filter in there. You have an O-ring seal on here. They want you to replace that. I usually don't. As long as it's in good shape, you can reuse it. Okay, once that you took this housing off and cleaned it, re-oil your O-ring. There's another O-ring here that they want you to replace. I didn't replace that one either because I like to live on the edge. Make sure that's got a nice coating of oil on it. Take your new filter. This is a K&N. You don't have to use K&N. You can use the Honda, but use a good quality. Wix is even a good one. Put that on there. It makes sense because this gasket goes right over this nub, and then this goes up against that spring. Kind of hold it up in place. Make sure that the filter doesn't drop. Kind of same thing you did when you're taking off. Rock it back and forth a little. Get the holes to line up. If you can get 2 bolts to start, it should be in the right orientation, which I did. So I'm going to tighten one up by hand, and then you can let go. The spring won't let it pop out anymore. Put in the 3rd bolt, and then these These get torqued to 7 foot-pounds. After installing a new crush washer on your drain bolt, tighten it to 18 foot-pounds, and then clean off your area around your dipstick. Pull out your dipstick, set it on a towel, a clean funnel. The owner's manual calls for 2.9 quarts, so I'm going to put in about 2.5. And after the 2.5 quarts are in, I'm gonna let it idle according to the procedure, and then recheck it. Just a quick note about the oil that you're gonna use in this. Remember, this is a Honda. It has a real transmission, and it has wet clutches. You need to use an oil. Use the Honda GN4, or use something that's formulated for motorcycles or ATVs. I'm using this AMSOIL Power Sports 4-stroke. It says right here in the description, Honda, Yamaha, all that, but it says wet clutch compatible. That's very important. You can't just put regular engine oil in here. It's not good. The clutches won't function like they're supposed to. I put just over 2.5 quarts, more like 2 3/4 quarts, and I'm gonna start it up, let it run for a couple seconds in neutral. Let it run for a little bit, check for leaks, and then you're going to want to recheck your oil according to the procedure, which I'll explain in a minute. Okay, so the proper way to check the oil level on this Honda is sit on a level surface, let it idle for 3 to 5 minutes. I already did that. Let it cool for 5 minutes, which I already did that. You remove the oil dipstick. Now we still don't have the panel on here, so you don't need to take off this little small panel. So you remove the dipstick, wipe it clean, and reinstall it, but you don't screw it in. That's how you get the proper level. If you screw it in, it's going to give you a false reading. So, like I said, like it says in the owner's manual, let it run for a few minutes. It's been sitting for a few minutes. Pop out your dipstick. Now it looks a little over full, but that's because that was all the way seated in. Now you just set that in. Don't thread it in. Pull it out and check your level. It has to be within these hash marks. Right here, it's like perfect. I ended up using the full 3 quarts. So I think with whatever residues left inside, it comes out to the perfect amount from each quart. Oil your O-ring with some fresh oil before you put that on, and then you just tighten it hand tight. Don't go crazy. Then just wrestle your plastics back on. Just spread out the front here. Tip the front down, make sure your shifter goes through the hole. Just manipulate it, kind of wiggle it until it falls into place. In the front, there's some tabs that have to go into slots. Kind of get those situated first. Never go into it. I'm going to start back here. Goes into a grommet. There's another slot down here. There's a grommet here. Push that. Same with the other side. Push toward in the front here by the tank. Make sure that seats into the grommet. And that's it. Pop the seat on. There you go. And that's an oil change on the Honda Rancher.